I am really excited to check this out. This is going to be the first time ever listening to a live performance by the band QWER. Now, before we get into it, I know we keep on covering this. I'm going to say that actually, yeah. So the fact that I call them QWER, this has come up a couple of times in the comments. I'm just going to quickly address it. Again, I know it is QWER. I find that a mouthful to say. I say QWER. So I just find that so much easier to say. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think as a general, most fans have been really cool about it, even the ones who don't understand why, which I mean, honestly, it's easier to say, but for the ones who didn't understand why I said it that way, thank you so many of you have been very understanding. But ultimately, it's a little bit of an interesting litmus test, and I'll tell you for why. Because I am always a great believer that the biggest fans of anything, bands, anything, are people who can have a sense of humor about it. It's one of the, because there's a lot of bands in Japan who have very big followings. And, you know, you'll sometimes have followers in any group who are just like a little bit too, like, just too much like idealistic is the word I'm going to use. And so often when I meet someone who's like an ultra fan of a band, my first question to them will be, what's your least favorite song? The reason I ask that is simply because of the fact that you can tell a genuine fan because they'll have an answer. They'll be like, oh, yeah, this one wasn't so much my favorite. But someone who's like, no, they've never done anything bad. They're the greatest. That's someone where you go, well, I can't really go to you for advice because you're more like, what's the word I'm going to use? You're in deep. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's been really cool about the fact that I call them QWER. And I'm going to keep on doing it because it's all done in light-hearted humor. I'm sure if they came down to the level of watching my videos, then they would find it funny as well. I'm sure they got a good sense of humor. And to be honest, I stick by it. QWER is a lot to be saying repeatedly. So QWER it is. Anyway, I've been talking a lot about that. That's the last time I'm going to address that name thing. If you don't get it, you don't get it, all right? Let's have some fun. I've been enjoying this band. Now, my expectations for this are really interesting. I am going for the performance off of their YouTube channel of Algorithms Blossom. Now, I was under the impression that Algorithms Blossom was the name of the album. So I don't know. It says it's a showcase, whether they're going to be doing, whether this video is going to have little bits from various songs or not. But the reason why I'm watching this today is because obviously we haven't just been reacting to this band. We've been talking about the fact that this band feel like they could have an important influence on the way that the Korean popular music scene currently works. You know, they could be a long overdue change in some things, the introduction of making musicianship cool again in a way that will also be really interesting for young women. I've seen the way that's worked in Japan. Obviously, Korea is not the same as Japan. It's going to have its own things, but certain cultural things come across, especially when you've had a country that it's all been choreography and that kind of thing has been the central aspiration for upcoming singers, to have a band who are like, hey, musicianship's cool. That's really interesting, and I did a whole video talking about it, so I'm not going to go on that too much. Do check that out. I've done a few videos about QWER, but one talking about how I think there's going to be a real change potentially in the scene because of them. But the question that keeps on coming up is, okay, K-pop bands apparently, and a lot of K-pop stans maybe are not big fans of QWER because of the fact that they, you know, it's different. Fair enough. I don't know so much about that, but whatever. But apparently there's been a lot of pushback against bands who are like, well, we don't like them because they're not a real band. And this is an interesting one because most of what I work with such a range of music here in Japan, but most of what I work with is young bands who play their own instruments. And I expressed a little bit concern when I first heard QWER about. And the first song I heard was Discord, which maybe wasn't the best song to hear first anyway, because that's a pretty heavily produced song in all fairness. Compared to the ones I've heard subsequently, it was not the best first one. But I expressed a little bit of concern about, I hope this isn't just some put together social media thing designed for clicks, which is just stealing the thunder from real musicianship. But from listening to what you guys have said, looking at the project, I mean, obviously it's a commercial thing. They're making money. There's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with being good at the commercial side. But it does seem there's some genuine passion to be a band underneath all of this. And the big question is, well, how does that translate to a live performance? And that's what I feel like we're going to be checking out today. That's what I'm hoping to check out. I will say a lot of you guys did mention, I got at least a couple of really nice comments talking about the fact there has been a recent live version of the song Rebound that was recorded. I did look that up. There was a few fan cams. To be honest, I tend to avoid fan cams, if I'm honest with you. Not saying as a rule I won't do them, but the reason why I tend to avoid them, a couple of reasons. First of all is the fact that the sound is often not good enough when, the whole point of a live video is you're trying to judge the actual, get a feel for the musicianship. And judge is a bit of a hard word, but, trying to get a feel for the musicianship. I don't think a fan cam is a good way to do that most of the time. And the other thing as well is because, I don't know in Korea if it's quite as strong, but a lot of the time in Japan, you're not actually allowed to do, record on your phone. Partly because, they want the bands to have a control of their image, and partly because, well, let's face it, we've all been to venues, if you've been to the West, which have been ruined by someone having a phone in front of you where you're trying to watch a show and there's a blinking freaking light to the side of you, or worse, when they're holding it up and you basically have to look at the stage through their stupid little screen. So as a result, I don't know, these could be really nice, but when I see a fan cam, I'm always worried about, I hope this wasn't done something in some way that annoyed someone else or against the band's wishes. So I try to avoid fan cams for the best part. So I'm going to go with this one. But by all means, you guys have been really good at giving me advice. Give me more advice. Keep me informed. Point me towards stuff. Maybe there's some official videos that I can check out. I just went for this one because it's a recent one. It's on their channel and it says that it's a showcase, stage cam, all the words that I want to hear to get a bit of a feel. And again, we're not here to judge and criticize QWER for how good they are live. Just get a feel for what they're like live. And yes, I had heard that on some TV shows they'd apparently played to a backing thing, but that is more a reflection of the way that TV unfortunately works in themselves. This one, my understanding, this is them just being them. So let's check it out. 어쩌다 고작한 마음도 못 참고 멍청하게 다 던졌는지 뭔가 들켜버린 것 같아 표정을 보니 말이야 나도 티가 나버린 고백에 얼마나 놀랐는지 몰라 Sorry, I'm not saying anything because I'm like watching like a hawk. It's just me, the drummer looks really young. How old is she? Is that just the way she looks? Nice song as well. This is a nice song actually. I'm going to have to talk about the song a little bit as well. I'm assuming it's an original song of theirs and not a cover. Yeah, algorithm Blossom Showcase. Nice. Cool. I like how she sings on the bit which doesn't have the bass in there. Like any kind of like aspiring band, you get very good at knowing where to put in the vocals so they don't pressure the person who's also playing the instrument. Nice little spin. It's weird because I feel like I'm watching like despite all their success, I feel like I'm watching a high school band doing their premiere show. Their debut show. Because everyone knows that they're relatively new musicians for the best part. It's a lovely song though. All right. Let's get into that thing that I suspect you guys know that we're kind of here for, and we have to address it. The whole reason I'm listening to this, the elephant in the room. Does this convince me of them as a legit band? Right. Here's the thing. I'm going to dismiss something first of all out of hand. See, I feel like a lot of people, and again, I'm going to say this honestly. I come from a background where I work with live music. I work with live bands. I work in the studio as well. I've had a good amount of experience with this. I don't personally care what you do so long as you're honest with your fans and you're honest with yourself and you're actually creating something. And if someone pays you a ticket price to come into your show, you're giving them legit what they came in for. That's about it. Other than that, just be creative is my answer. So I think there's a lot of people who approach stuff like this in what I would describe as a disingenuous way. They are looking for, and I'm not pointing at fingers at anyone here. I'm just saying because I'm trying to get a feel for where the criticism towards this band is coming from. There are people, and I have seen a couple, who go into this and they'll look for anything that doesn't seem to be coming directly from the instrument. And they'll pick it apart and go, that's fake. And that pisses me off because that isn't necessary. Okay, let me give you a couple of examples. In this, there are elements of backing track being used. You can hear little effects and things coming in that are clearly not being played by the four of them. They're quite small. There is some layering, which I think is... these things, it could be backing track that we use at the time. It could have been, if this is a well-recorded live show, it could have been dubbed over the top afterwards. There could be all kinds of things happening like that. There could be effects that are being applied. Like there was an interesting bit that was off camera when the singer was singing and her voice dropped into an effect, like a sort of a lo-fi effect. That could have been done live through a pedal. That could have been done in post. That could be done a million possible ways. There are a lot of things in this video and this performance that I 100% accept. You could look at and say, I'm not sure if that's 100% legit. You know, is there backing tracks? We can argue about that till the cows come home. At home. Old English expression, can't even say it right. We can argue about that till the cows come home. For me, that's not the important thing. A lot of the bands I love, like one of my favorite bands, Trident, they have been criticized for the fact they go up and they play a backing track quite a lot live. Just because their songs, they're a three-piece band and their songs tend to have a lot of extra sounds that they want to put in, so they layer them up live. They still play their instruments. Yeah, that's fine. There's bands I know like Scandal, who are legendary. They will often use, because the lead singer has, her voice is sort of worn down a little bit over the years, they'll use things like auto-tune live. But kind of everyone knows that they're doing it. It's kind of like, they even use it sometimes in the recording. It's kind of like everyone knows that's the deal, but she still sings the stuff. I'm not accusing QWER of any of this, but I'm just trying to set a precedent before I say what I'm about to say, which is, for me, this video was more than enough to convince me that there's no problem here. Because look at what they're doing. I mean, to be honest, even if you told me absolutely every single note of this entire thing was dubbed, I would still be fine with the fact that they are capable of playing your music. Because, I mean, short of them including videos of other people's hands in the place, they were putting their hands in the right place, they were moving their hands the right way, they were playing the right notes, the drummer was clearly capable of playing everything that we were hearing, the bassist was clearly capable of playing everything we were hearing, as was the keyboard player from what I could see. I have no questions about the singer, because, I mean, I would assume she can sing, and the guitar work she was doing was relatively simple anyway. It was like sort of rhythm guitar work. I don't have a problem. I don't see what the problem is here. You could argue that, performances might not be raw and pure like a punk band. Fine, okay, we can argue about that. That's a whole conversation. But then you've got to bring in every other band. You've got to bring in all the other bands who do things like backing tracks, who maybe have vocal effects, who maybe edit their live videos in post. You've got to bring them all in. And yes, there are people talking about that as well. That's a conversation that's being had. But you can't then just use QWER as the scapegoat and say, well, you're an example of everything that's wrong. So anyone who's doing that, I'm sorry, but there's nothing in this video that makes me think they can't play the instruments or suggest that they're doing something that isn't happening elsewhere in the music industry either way. If you love it or you hate it, that's fine. Just do not narrow it down to them, because then Yeah, I'm being legit. I would be honest. If I felt there was any sort of foul play going on here, if I felt like they were cheating their fans, tricking their fans, I would be the first one to jump down on that because, again, as I said when we started on this journey, I am a big supporter of a lot of upcoming bands, and I don't want to see a bunch of social media influencers drafted in, just given a couple of lessons and allowed to take the limelight from people who've worked really hard to get to that point. What I am saying though, QWER has the potential to really make band music cool in a country where it's fallen out of favour for a couple of reasons, but definitely needs a new lease of life. They are playing their own instruments. They seem to love what they do. The whole Ed Kim story regarding Bocce the Rock, clearly there's a lot of love for the musician's journey. They seem to be popularizing it from everything I've heard. I'm still very early on the journey, but all I'm saying is I have not seen anything that me jumps out as like a huge red flag here. It's like, yeah, it's a bit poppy, but they can legit play the instruments. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, this is fine. I'm happy with this. I'm convinced with this. There's nothing wrong here. So yeah, that's kind of like the elephant in the room that needed to be addressed. Do we need to see them do stuff super raw? I'd like to see that out of interest. I don't know how raw this video was. There was a little bit of sheen to it. There was some backing track elements being used. I don't know how much post-production happens in recording after the session, because, after this, obviously, even though it's live, most of these venues that do live recording, you can just take all the tracks away like you would from a studio and edit them individually, so that's not out of the question. I don't know about any of that stuff, and anyone who claims to know about that is probably being presumptuous in of themselves. I would just say, though, this was fun. I enjoyed this. This makes me think that if someone said, hey, QWER's in your town, go see them live, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds like that's going to be a good show. There you go. Those are my thoughts on that. And then, unless someone's got a big surprise for me for our next video, we'll just continue checking out more of their singles then. So I think we can put to bed the suggestion that they're not capable of playing their instruments, because it looks like they are. There you go, those are my thoughts. And obviously, if you just want to have a more nuanced conversation about this, bring it up in the chat. Tell me if there's something about this that bothers you. And, again, if you're a fan of the band, be supportive. If people have questions about that kind of thing, that's nice. I mean, not everything is a criticism, in the same way that me calling them QWER is not me insulting the band. If someone has a criticism, says, well, look, I don't like something about this, about the way they do their live stuff, have the conversation. That's how we can bring together people from different genres, and especially with a band like QWER, who appear to be standing on the border between two different things, two different worlds of music, and potentially could open up a lot of gaps for crossover. These are the conversations we need to have. We need to be accepting of other fans, but we also need to listen to what people like and not be judgmental dicks just because something's not the way we want it to be. I'm going off into a whole different tirade here, but yeah, I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it. I would definitely, if someone said they were live and tickets, I wouldn't be able to afford the tickets. I know that in advance. But assuming they were the sort of prices that I normally pay to go to live houses, yeah, I'd go along and see them because it sounds like a good band. There you go. Those are my thoughts. Get in the comments, tell me what you think. This one's going to be a lot of fun, isn't it? And until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these, for now, ciao, ciao.